It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
All right, welcome to Jill on Money. Oh my God, it is almost the end of the summer. I am depressed. It's official. You know, you don't know this, but amazingly, I've taken vacation. Although did not miss a weekend. No, I did not. But now that I'm back from vacation, I'm kind of like jazzed up. I'm pretty psyched. So I feel good. I know we all have that sort of back to school sense, even if we're not in school or we don't have kids in school. I always get excited at the end of August, the beginning of September. I was a nerdy kind of kid. You know what I loved, Mark? I know this is going to be shocking to you. I love getting school supplies and organize. Oh, those organizers inside my loose leaf. Oh, a what? He just asked me if I had a what? A what keeper? A trapper keeper? I don't even know what that means. What is that? I got to look that up. I had listen, Mark, I'm old. I had a loose leaf notebook with remember, like 3-ring binder, which I don't think anyone ever uses anymore. And I had my pen and pencils. I had a ruler in there. I was ready to rock and roll, and I loved getting new pens and pencils. Oh, so fabulous. Anyway, that is sort of the idea around what I hope you guys are feeling in terms of what's going on in your financial lives. You want to get things organized. You want to come talk to us and tell us what's going on. This is why we want to hear from you. So if you have a financial question at all, anything on your mind, it could be a school related, meaning your kid's school, your own debt, you can give us a call. You can talk to us about retirement savings or tax savings or anything. Just ring us up, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Does the U.S. Open start this weekend, Mark? So Mark, of course, somehow or other wrangles a press pass to go to the U.S. Open. Interesting. Funny, I don't think you work for a media company anymore, but all right. Yeah, sort of, kind of. Anyway, Mark's a huge tennis fan. Give us a call. And by the way, don't forget to check out our podcast, Better Off. You can get it on Apple, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, anywhere else you find your favorite podcast. We've had some really awesome guests lately, so check it out. And follow us on Twitter, @JillOnMoney. All right, now let's go take a call. Isn't that why you're waiting for us? I know that's what Mark's been waiting for. He's sort of like, all right, enough already. So we love to hear from you. And I do love the emails, but I love definitely to get your voices. So let's talk to Ray. He is on the line. Where are you from, Ray?
Good morning, Jill. I'm from Ellington, Connecticut.
All right. What's going on in Connecticut? How can I help you out?
Well, the budget in Connecticut really stinks.
It does.
Other than that,
I want to tell you something.
Connecticut's good.
FYI, I did a speaking engagement for my friends at WTIC Radio in Hartford, okay? And then, because I was going up there, I really was trying to figure out what's going on in the state of Connecticut. Dude, it's a hot mess in Connecticut. That budget is crazy.
We have a bunch of crazy people who've been elected to office.
Oh my God! All right, let's deal with the things we can deal with. What about your financial life can we help you with, Ray?
Well, my wife is retired, and I'm getting close. I'm self-employed, and so I'm just kind of phasing out the work that I do.
Okay.
And getting to we're going to have an in-between time between now and the 70 and a half when we have to start taking required minimum distributions from our IRAs.
Okay.
And I don't want to have the government controlling completely the amount of income I get after 70 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm looking at seeing how to take money out of those accounts, IRAs versus Roth versus taxable accounts, in that 4 or 5 year period, so that I can reduce the level of my taxable IRAs after 70 and a half.
Got it. Ray, how old are you right now?
63.
Okay. And how much money do you have in a traditional IRA or a traditional retirement account, whether it's an IRA or a SEP?
About 300,000.
Okay. And you have a Roth as well?
Yes.
How much is in there?
About 250.
And what about in the taxable account?
About 300 there as well.
Okay, great. And in looking ahead, when you said, you're still working, so how much longer do you plan on working?
Well, I do computer tech support work, so frankly, I probably won't completely stop, but I may get it down to maybe only a day or 2 days a week, kind of thing. But
how much
it
do
really
you earn?
isn't going to amount to a whole lot of money.
Right. How much do you earn right now?
It's only about the 40,000 range.
And your wife is retired. Do you have any other income? Does she receive a pension? Do you have any rental property?
No other incomes except dividends and so forth from our investment. But she will get a pension starting at 65.
Okay. And how much will that be?
$8,000 or $9,000 a year.
Okay, but not nothing, right?
No.
So not bad.
Good spending money.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in your mind, I hear that you want to accelerate the idea, or like you said, control when you get income. Obviously, you want to wait to pull any money out of your IRA until you have the lowest possible tax bracket. So what I would think about is the following. If there's a period of time where you can pull a little bit of money out because you're maybe in between working and you have 1 year where my income is down, maybe you might even take some of the IRA money, even if you don't need it, and convert it to a Roth. But I think that you shouldn't be in such a hurry to take that money out because we just want to pay attention to what your tax bracket's going to be. So
sure.
I think there's probably some sweet spot in the next couple of years, maybe before you pull Social Security or before she gets her pension, where you might have a dip in income, and I might take a little bit of money out in those years. But you don't have so much money in an IRA that I would go crazy with it. And I think that for you, the best thing you can try to do is just keep an eye on when my taxable income bracket is as low as possible. That's when I would pull some money out, not a lot, because you don't want to pop yourself into a higher bracket, right? And do it that way. But I really wouldn't be in a rush. Most of your money, you're lucky. The IRA is kind of like you'll have to take some money out, but your Roth and your taxable accounts already been taxed. So you want to use that money last if possible, right? Because especially I would in the like sort of when you use your money ranking, you say, okay, I'll take my IRA distribution as needed. I'll use some of my tax. That's fine. I use some of my taxable money. Fine. But Roth will be the last money that you access. Ray, thanks so much for calling. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Eight 855-411-JILL. That's the number to call to have your financial questions answered. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. I think I'm a little rusty from vacation. I got to be honest with you. It's all right. It happens. I got a little vacation brain. Mark wanted me to clarify my discussion with Ray because I think I thought I said this, but I did not, obviously, because Mark's like, shouldn't you have said it this way? Which is kind of how he talks to me. Anyway, so if you missed the call, Ray had $300,000 in his IRA account, $250 in his Roth, $300,000 in his taxable account, and he wanted to talk about whether he should accelerate taking money out of his IRA to kind of manage his own minimum required distribution. And So essentially, what I wanted to really say to him is that you use your taxable account to live on first, and you take the required minimum distributions as you have to. The only difference would be, the only reason you would accelerate your distributions from that retirement account is if your tax bracket dropped down below the level that it would be when you're 70 and a half. So Mark is right that in general, we like to say spend your taxable account first, your IRA second, your Roth last. Okay? Or your deferred, whatever the deferred portion is, whether it's a 401k, 403b, or a traditional IRA. Is that better, Mark? I think so. Much better. All right, let's go take a call right now. Bob from San Francisco is on the line. Hi, Bob. What can I do for you?
Hi, how are you?
Fantastic.
Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Well, I wanted some advice. My wife and I recently relocated from California to the East Coast. And what we did was we sold our business, house. I had a bed and breakfast. And what brought all of this on, and I thought you should know, the early thing is that, you know, my age, I'm 52. And my wife and I are in a position, I believe, to retire. And why we're doing this is we had a scary heart issue happen with her. And so it brought everything to kind of a realization that life's short, and we thought that we would go ahead and start planning our future.
Sounds great.
Little to us to know, the first person out the gate, real estate's pretty hot in California, at least where we were. And so the first person out the gate made us an offer, and it was great. And so that we went ahead and cashed out.
Sweet.
So currently, what we have is we have zero debt. We paid, obviously, the house was everything was paid off with that end. I paid cash for the house that I bought on this end, and have no debt. My wife is older than I am, and she's going to be able to go on disability where she'll be getting her Social Security and that each month. But we also have quite a substantial amount in the bank.
Okay.
And I don't want to just have that sitting there. And at my age, I told you the age and kind of what we are, because I don't know, we've never had to deal with a financial planning or anything for our future.
Okay.
And I respect you, and I'd love some input.
All right. So I have a couple more questions for you. So you're
Sure.
52. How old is your wife?
Yeah. She's 62.
Okay. She's 62, but she's going to collect her Social Security, her SSDI, and then she'll be
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Got it. And so in terms of her health care, how are you doing that? What's the game plan there?
The Medi-Cal, I believe, kicks in at 65.
Yes,
is that right?
Medicare you get
Yeah,
at 65, so you've got
paying
3
right now,
years here.
We signed up for a Blue Cross.
Okay, got it.
We have, that's what's currently, we were with Kaiser, but Kaiser's not available here, so where we are.
Okay.
So we went with Blue Cross.
Great.
So
Okay.
I'm paying quite a bit for that each month.
I bet.
But we do own everything else. I own the house, all my vehicles. I have zero debt for anything.
So when you think about the expenses that you have going forward on a monthly basis or an annual basis, including that, big fat medical insurance, how much money do you need to live on right now?
Per month?
Yeah.
I would say $3,000.
Okay. Great. That's cheap. Good. And what will your wife's Social Security be?
We already found out it's $2,300 a month.
Fabulous. Okay. And are you going to plan to do anything, or in terms of work, or how do you feel like you're going to approach this?
I'm not sure which way to go. Like I said, there's a substantial, pretty good sum that I have sitting in my bank right now, and I don't. Bank isn't where I want it. I want to know what I can, how to best place it. I don't know. Somebody even said maybe I should buy a condo as an investment.
No. Forget about that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. So, how much money's in the bank?
1.7.
That's a good number. I love that number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, presuming that you have these expenses of $3,000 a month, let's just say from that one, and there's no other big bills that are coming up anytime soon, correct?
No.
Okay. So let's do this. Out of the 1.7, let's keep 50 grand in cash. And now we know that you've got, $1.65 million that's available. And is that all the money you guys have in the world?
No, ma'am.
What else do you have?
Then we have two other banking accounts, and I have $70,000 in one and $35,000 in another.
Oh, all right. So you don't even need to keep it. So it's really the whole 1.7 million. You got plenty of cash.
But now here's the thing.
Yeah.
I haven't done taxes yet. We just sold all this.
So I was going to ask you: is there is there a tax bill that's due?
Not yet. We just paid April's for the business and did all through that. So I haven't even contacted our CPA or anything. And being that we're new on the East Coast, we're not on the West Coast anymore.
I'm going to tell you this. So let's just presume that the first thing you have to do is pay your tax bill. So you should get in touch with do some research and find out if we can get you a CPA. And then whatever's left over is what you have to think about, like, how am I going to invest, right? I mean, if you had, I'm going to make this up. If you had $1.5 million that's left over after you pay taxes, maybe that's going to be too much. Maybe you're going to have a bigger tax bill.
That's about what we've been told. It's going to be about between 200 and 270 around in there.
All right. So let's do it. Let's be as conservative as possible. Let's say you've got 1.4 million that will be available after taxes. Whatever that tax is going to be, you should go figure that out now before you get in there. And start mucking around with this.
I don't want to. See, that's the whole thing. My wife's amazing. That's one of the biggest things. We're celebrating 20 years, by the way, this month.
Congratulations.
And she's everything, and she's just so wonderful with that part of our life. So we've conditioned ourselves where we want to leave that money. We want to invest that money.
Great. Okay. So when you invest, is she going to invest it, or are you going to go talk to somebody to invest it?
We want to talk to somebody. No, we're not. Both of us don't know anything about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what I'm going to suggest to you is the following. Whatever you have left over, 1.5, 1.4-ish, it's going to be able to generate I'm going to give you a round number, about 40 grand a year if it's invested correctly. So what I think you guys should do is I think you should start interviewing some financial planners, some certified financial planners. And what we're going to do is we're going to get your information off the air, and I'm going to do a little research for you because we'll find out where in your neighborhood we can get you a financial planner who can sit down with you, discuss with you how to manage this money going forward. Because I think if you do this the right way, if you're really careful, you're not going to feel like you have to work. You'll want to work probably because it sounds like, look, 52 years old, you're not going to stop working, but you're going to have a lot of opportunity and lots of choices. So, Bob, hang on the line because Mark's going to pick up the phone. We're going to get a little bit more information from you, and we're going to get you the names of some certified financial planners who can really help you maximize the use of this huge windfall. So, hang on. All right, you are listening to Jill on Money. 855-411-JILL. That's our phone number, and our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money. Here she is, Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone number here is 855-411-JILL. Our email address, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Hey, stay tuned. In the second hour, we've got a special guest, Stephen Gasque. He's from the National Association of Realtors. He hosts the show called Real Estate Today. And he's going to tell us all about the housing market right now, which is really tight. Boy, it's tough to find a house. Mark, it's lucky you got that apartment when you did. He knows it. And he worked hard for that, by the way. All right. Send us a note if you've got a financial question. We love emails. We love to hear your voice. But the email address here, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Here's an email question we received from Bala, who says that he and his wife live in the New Jersey suburbs. They make, let's see. His wife's 45, he's 51. They make $250,000 a year. They've got about $900,000 in retirement accounts, $300,000 in taxable accounts. That's great. Fully fund the 401k and the IRA. My wife has an option called a spillover election, which is an after-tax contribution into her retirement account. They've already put aside $300,000 for kids' education, to both attending Ivy League schools, the biggest expense in our lives, more than what I spent for my house. Yeah, but your house can't take care of you if you get old. So think about that. All right. Now, here's what we have to think about. We have no debts, including our house, which is fully paid off. We live frugally, and we're not saving that much. How do we beef up our retirement savings? I think you're saving pretty good. I don't know, $1.2 million? I think that's a good number so far. I mean, that's pretty great. He's 51. She's 45. So, all right. First of all, number one, I hope you're when you say you're maxing out your retirement accounts, you're putting in $18,000, but remember, you get to put in an extra $6,000 because you're over the age of 50. So I presume you're putting away 24. She's still stuck at the $18,000, so she's maxing out. And I think that if you have the cash flow to be able to, have a little bit of extra money, I like the idea of using that spillover election that your wife has. I think that's a great way to be really disciplined, have the money come out of the account, makes it really easy for you to do. Okay? So I think that it doesn't seem to me like you're in bad shape at all. I don't know why. You seem kind of stressed. I mean, you're going to work probably for another 10 or 15 years. You've already got $1.2 million saved. I guess the one question we don't have the answer to is we don't know exactly how much money you need to live. But, if you're thinking why you're not saving quite as much, my best bet is that because as the kids get older, the requirements that they have just in terms of stuff and activities and college and expenses and all of those things have really probably started to creep up on you. So what I think will likely happen is when those kids graduate, you might have a little bit extra cash flow and you can start to push that money into your retirement savings. But again, especially before your wife turns 50, I would use that spillover election and I would try to slowly but surely put more money away into retirement. But you're doing a good job. Don't be so hard on yourself, man. I think you're doing great. What do you think, Mark? I don't know. You sound like you're stressing too much. Anyway, Bala says, I've been listening to your show for years, and thanks to your recommendation, I have invested only in low-cost index funds. Woohoo! Don't worry so much. I think you're in better shape than you realize. So thank you for writing, but relax, okay? I also want to give you an update on an interesting email that I had received a while back, which was from a friend of mine at work. I'm not going to tell you the name because too many of my friends at work listen. And the question was about refinancing a house. And really the big issue was there was a divorce involved, some debt, a little bit of student loans for the kids, and there was a bunch of extra stuff that just accumulated, about, let's call it $50,000 in debt. And so the question was, should I refinance, pull that extra $50,000 out, and be able to pay down that debt? And my answer was yes. But then the follow-up question was something I received this past week. And the question was, I have a 15-year estimate for how much money it is a month. It would be $3,900 a month payment, including the new money that I had to go to pay down the old debt. And should I actually try to work harder? Should I get a 10-year note? And I went the other direction. I said, wait a second. Why are you getting a 10-year mortgage? Why don't you get a 20 or a 30-year mortgage and let your cash flow be a little bit fatter during these years where your kids are in college? the thing that is really important about that idea is that having, this was not a happy person who got this, because then I had to say, I had to get this question. Well, I don't want to have a mortgage when I'm 80. It's a 58-year-old person, right? And I said, look, you're not going to keep the mortgage for 30 years. The reason you get a longer term mortgage is that you give yourself flexibility. And that flexibility is something that can be really important while the kids are still in school and you are a little bit crunched by your cash flow. So the idea here is that instead of a $3,900 a month payment, the payment that was presented in a 20 or a 30-year option was like $2,800 or $3,300. So $2,800 a month gives you like an extra $1,000 just in case something comes up for the kid, gives you a little bit more flexibility. And you know what else it does? It doesn't lock you into 20 or 30 years. It means once your constraint period is over, you can always make extra payments. You can pay down mortgages faster. There's no reason why you have to keep a mortgage for 20 or 30 years, but you're giving yourself flexibility at a time where you think you've got some constraints. That's the issue. That's why I like longer term mortgages, especially while interest rates are really low. So don't be so quick to pay everything off. You might need that money to do other things. Maybe it's putting more money in your retirement account. Maybe it's helping your kid, kind of get through the transition from college into the first job. So I like longer term mortgages. All right, you're listening to Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It's Jill on Money, the show where Jill Schlesinger helps you save your money.
You're back with Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. I'm Jill Schlesinger. Mark is running the show. If you've got a financial question, we would love to hear from you. Our phone number here is 855-411-JILL. You can send an email. The email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. I may thought I've heard everything, but here's something that I found out that just blew my mind. You ready for this, Mark? I found this new website with selling a product that I actually thought was a joke. It's called Pavlok, Pavlok. What is Pavlok, you ask? For $180, you can purchase a wearable device that gives you a mild electric shock if you do something you don't want to do. I swear, I'm not making this up. This is a real thing. Correct. So this is what it says on the website. We create apps, wearables, technology, and more, all designed to help our users get control of their behavior. Okay, so what they basically do is zap you when you do something you don't want to do. So, for example, this is a direct quote. For the first few days you have your Pavlok, use your credit card as you would normally. Don't go out and buy a yacht online, but spend as if you would in a typical day. Each time you go to pull your credit card out of your wallet, give yourself a light zap. Do this for several days. After just a few days of doing this, Pavlok will have helped you build awareness around your habit, which is the first step in breaking bad habits. You may notice your desire to use your credit cards less, but at the very least, you'll start thinking twice about ordering those imported alpaca shoes. I don't even know what to do with this except to say, I guess that we really do need help. I don't know why, but like this shock therapy, electroshock spending therapy does not seem to me like a really great idea. So I'm not going to encourage you to do it, but I am going to encourage you to track how you spend your money and rely on your good old restraint to help you with your choices, not zapping yourself. Go out and get yourself a Pavlok if you want to shock yourself. I don't know. I can't imagine that's going to be a great business. Okay, enough of that. I just wanted to share. Adrian writes that he and his wife have about $50,000 in credit card and some medical debt. Plus, did you get the number, Mark? $400,000 in student loans. I read that and my neck starts to hurt. My heart starts to palpitate. I don't even know what to say to that except, oh my God. $450 in outstanding debt. The $50,000 of credit card debt is in collections. It's past due. This all happened when one of them was in medical school. Then they had a baby, stopped working, blah, blah, blah. So the question is, now that we're back up to speed, which they are, they're both still working, should we pay off the old debt in full? Should we take a settlement? How would the settlement affect credit later, considering, well, first of all, if you take a settlement, then you are going to get a major league further ding to your credit score. But if you're looking, so the goal here is that they want to get their credit score back up so they can buy a house. First of all, if you are actually working now and your life is better and you're sort of okay, I would really strive to pay it off in full. I really would. Because number one, that's your obligation. Number two, you can. And I think it's probably going to be better for your credit. That said, if for some reason you can talk to the companies and somehow figure out a settlement where you pay this off, or that they won't report, or you can get some sort of deal, sure, maybe. But all in all, if in general, I am a fan of paying off your debts because you did assume them, unless you really can't. So, good luck. I don't know, $450,000. Mark wants to know what you're thinking when you make that decision. I don't think they're thinking. I think that what they're doing is they are saying, I want to be a doctor. This is how I'm going to be a doctor. And that is what's going on. I'm sorry to say. I don't think there's a lot of thinking going on that. So please don't. I mean, I know these are crazy numbers, right? Oh, anyway. When we come back, I have a last question from a friend of mine who's got a mortgage that he's interested in paying down. Should he or shouldn't he? To pay down the mortgage or to not pay down the mortgage? That is the next question here at the Jill on Money Show. If you have a financial question, I'd love to hear from you. 855-411-JILL. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. And don't forget, you can hop onto the YouTube channel, search Jill Schlesinger to listen to past shows, or if you missed any part of this one. All right, we're going to talk about paying off your mortgage debt when we return. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, give us a holler, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Okay, my pal sends me a note who says, I've been meaning to write you for a while and hopes you can break a tie with some conflicting advice I'm getting. I'm at the point where I can just about pay off my mortgage with all of my available savings, which is currently sitting in a money market earning about 1.1%. I'm thinking about opening up a home equity line of credit in case I need some emergency cash in the future. I was told it's a horrible idea. I should keep my mortgage and savings where it is. I have been getting slammed with the alternative minimum tax in the last couple of years. And I thought not paying mortgage interest might help. Even if it's fully deductible, I'm still paying that interest. What do you say? So I asked just, what the mortgage rate is. So here are the numbers. The mortgage right now, $287,000 at 3.65% fixed. It's a 30-year. So that is a sweet rate. I have $260,000 in liquid savings, no other debt. I max out my 401k. Home equity line of credit is about 3.5%, with an option to fix a portion of it at 3.75%. So he's thinking about paying down a bunch of it, couple $100,000, closing it out, blah, blah, blah. I've said, so I wrote to him, I'm inclined to have you keep your emergency reserves. Banks can pull lines of credit at any time. I'm not fond of relying on a HELOC in a rising interest rate environment. And so then it became clear to me that really he wants to pay off his mortgage. And if you really desperately want to, I guess that the answer is if you're going to keep your money in a 1% account and you can pay off a 3% loan, I guess you should do that. But don't keep your money in a 1% account. Get that money to work for you. Come on, gang. These rates are so low and you're just wasting it. Speaking of low rates and the housing market, stay tuned. In hour number 2, we've got a guest, Stephen Gasque from the National Association of Realtors, host of Real Estate Today. He's going to talk to us about the current housing market, and we're going to talk about those low rates. Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Email us, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, which means it's time for Jill on Money, the show that makes money fun and just happens to answer all your financial questions. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to Jill on Money. It is hour number 2, which means that we're going to have a guest this hour. I love the guests because I love to hear from you, but I like to do a little bit of everything, which is kind of fabulous. If you've got a financial question, give us a holler, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. As of the July Case-Shiller Home Price Index, I guess it's the S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller National Home Price Index, we know that there has been another annual gain of about 5.5%. But there are some places where the housing market is going a little bit nuts. Seattle, Portland, Denver, all reporting high year-over-year gains among the 20 cities surveyed. We're talking about double digits, like 13% price increases, 9%, 8%. So the housing market is heating up. It is not to say that everything is going nuts like we were in the 2000 to 2006 time horizon, because we're not. And frankly, the folks who released this index say that that's not what's happening. We're not repeating the bubble period, but there are some markets where there are really hot areas, and the problem is really about we just don't have enough homes for sale. That's why we've got our guest, Stephen Gasque, the host of Real Estate Today, joining us to help us decipher the housing market. The market right now feels almost frenzied in many parts of the country, the real estate market. And there's just not a lot of houses for sale. What are you hearing about kind of the state of where things stand? Because maybe I'm in this weird place where, the parts of the country where I'm hearing from people, it seems like, oh, my God, I can't find a house. Are you finding that as well?
In most of the markets, that's exactly what's happening. And you're right. It's a frenzied market right now, and the buyers are facing what you might consider to be a triple threat against them. They really have a tough job because, as you said, there aren't enough homes for sale. And that's causing rising prices. And all of that is resulting in competition. So the days when you could go and look at a house and take a few photos and then go back and talk about it over dinner, call your dad, call your mom, call your friends, sleep on it, by the next day it's gone. You got to move. You've got to really move. It's also frenzied for the sellers because they're finding faster transactions than they're used to. They put the for sale sign out front, and before you know it, they have 6 offers on their house. So their job is evaluating which offer is the best and which one can go the distance all the way to the closing table. And so sellers also are finding a little difference in today's market because they really have to fix up their homes. The generation of home buyers now have been watching TV shows about real estate their whole life.
Right.
That's what they want when they walk in the front door. They do not want a fixer-upper. So in all of this, though, there is an oasis of happiness and calm.
Yeah, where is that?
Homeowners, people who aren't making any moves at all.
Right.
They have the benefit of seeing their values rise. Their equity is rising. They're in a much safer and secure place, and they're just becoming wealthier with every passing year because of real estate properties.
Yeah, but they're not like cashing in, so who cares? I mean, isn't it paper wealth?
It is paper wealth, but paper wealth that's moving up is way better than paper wealth that's moving down.
Good point. Good point. What is the best real estate decision you've ever made?
To buy everything I can.
Really?
Honestly. Now, sometimes it comes back to bite me because I bought some investment condominiums just before the downturn, and so that hurt. But overall, every experience has been positive for me. And right now I have several properties, and they are appreciating in value. And I have to think of it in the long term. I'm not a flipper. I'm someone who owns properties for decades. And buying as much as you can, I think, is a great idea in the long run. Markets go up and down, but in the long run. The other thing that I think would be, I've done this myself, and I think it's just a great, great idea, is to stick close to home, find a little place that you can comfortably afford, and just buy it and rent it out.
So you like being a landlord? Because I find that idea horrifying. I have to say. It really is like the last thing I would ever want is to deal with someone else's pipes freezing. Seriously. I just think it's like daunting to me. But I get that I know there's plenty of people who have done it and made a lot of money doing it. So absolutely. But my God, I just think it sounds horrible.
Well, I know it's daunting, but, for many people, being a national financial expert on CBS would be daunting as well.
No.
I mean, it's you get used to it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess. So, okay. So is there one particular property that you think is like the best property you've ever bought?
Yes. I bought a little tiny, 300 square foot condo in downtown D.C. With hardwood floors and exposed brick walls. It is just a dollhouse. I'm going to hold that until my last dying breath because that is going to go up and up and up over time. Now, obviously D.C. is a hot market. Any big city would offer the same. You wouldn't see the same return out in the country. And I own some properties in the country too. And for them, over 10 years, if it goes up 15,000, you're doing well. But all in all, I do believe in home ownership, and I do believe, and I'm not just saying this because I'm with NAR. I've always believed in home ownership. I think it's a good move, and it's good for your family, and it's good for you. And I think that if you want to end up when you have white hair like I do.
And he does have white hair, but it's a beautiful head of white hair. It really is.
But if you want to end up with either wealth or close to what you consider to be wealth, I really believe that real estate's a part of it. And it's something we understand. It's not like investing in some really exotic asset that you don't really know what's going on there. Real estate.
Right.
And another thing that I think is a really great technique, Jill, and I think you and I may have talked about this before. If you want to become a real estate investor, one of the best ways to do it is to buy your next house, but rent out the one you're in now. Because talk about understanding your investment. You know everything about that house, from the utility bills to, what that knock is in the radiator in the middle of the night. And so that is one of the safest and most conventional ways to invest. Rent out that place and then buy your next house. And before you know it, you might have 3 or 4.
Okay, now let's get back to the market as it stands right now. I mean, you've been around this business for a while, and when we hear things like bidding wars or low inventory, I think people start to get nervous that we're back, a decade ago in the boom. How is this different than where we were 10 years ago?
The difference is lenders are not saying to buyers, hey, you want a mortgage? Don't worry about the numbers.
Okay.
They can't say that anymore.
Okay, so the lending industry has fundamentally changed in the last 10 years, right?
Exactly. It's tighter, and if you can get a mortgage in today's world, you know you can afford it because they're not taking risks anymore.
We'll have more of our interview with Stephen Gasque of Real Estate Today, a big-time radio show you might have heard right here on this station for all I know. If you've got a financial question, including perhaps what you should be doing with your house, whether you should refinance, who knows, give us a call. 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Wondering how to make your money work for you? Get on the line now. 855-411-JILL. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. And if you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. You can give us a call, 855-411-JILL. You can send us an email, askjill at jillonmoney.com. Hey, follow us on Twitter at Jill on Money. You don't have to follow Mark anymore. Just follow Jill on Money. Our lots are tied together now. If you've got a question, we want to help you out. We get so many questions about real estate. That's why we are delighted to have Stephen Gasque. He is the host of the Real Estate Today radio show. He's here, and right now we're going to talk about tips for buyers, do's and don'ts. If you look at where the market is in terms of buyers right now, what are some mistakes that buyers need to avoid?
In today's market, I think the first mistake, and this is going to sound funny, is giving up. Thinking they need 20% of the down payment to buy a house. They don't.
But it's safer.
It is safer. Right. So, I mean, if they know that they can get in with a good, solid, safe 3% down mortgage, but they decide it's safer to do 20, then good for them. That's good thinking. But I want to try to tell everyone you just don't need the 20%.
Okay, I'm going to push back because I'm going to tell you that I know you can get a loan from an FHA loan with as little as 3% down. I get that. I just don't think that's prudent, and I don't see why we should encourage people to do that. I don't even understand why FHA wants to do that. What's the reasoning behind that?
It opens the door to home ownership.
So what? People. Why is it like so? Okay. I'm whatever. I mean, I like real estate. It's fine. I don't love it like you do, which is probably good because that's why you do what you do. But I don't really understand why we should be so encouraging of home ownership to the point of actually having the government subsidize people buying homes in the form of a mortgage interest deduction, which they do, and I get to take advantage of it, but I never understood it. Like, what's the big deal? Why should a renter be penalized for renting versus someone who buys?
Well, you've just asked me several questions.
Yes,
Let me take the first one first.
Okay.
The government, whether we're talking about the government-sponsored enterprises Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, as well as the Federal Housing Administration, they believe that once you get into a house, if you can comfortably afford the mortgage, you begin down the road to accumulating wealth. Mm-hmm. And then in the long run, even if you put down 3%, if you just hold that house and make your mortgage payments and don't default, then over time, you and your family will be more comfortable and more well off and more able to withstand all the things that happen in an economy than if you didn't. And so I believe that too. I mean, even if you get in at 3%, the one risk, as we know, the risk of getting in low with a low down payment is if the market falls, you're all of a sudden underwater. Whereas if you have 20% down and it goes down 5%, you still got 15% equity. But let me just also point out one thing about the getting in without much skin in the game.
Right.
One of the most stable loans in America is the VA loan, which is 0% down. It
That's
has one of the
interesting.
lowest default rates of any loan in America. And so, I believe, first of all, you are absolutely correct. You've got to crunch the numbers. You've got to know exactly what you can afford. Don't wing it, but know what you can afford. And if you can, and if you want, and if it's the right thing for you, you can get in.
Do you think that if the mortgage interest deduction did not exist, that it would be a crushing blow to the real estate market?
I think it would reduce the incentives that people have to get in.
Maybe it would just reduce rich people's incentives, though. Do you know what I'm saying? Because think about this.
Well,
I was just going through this in my mind.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So, first of all, you have to have a big enough mortgage interest deduction to itemize in the first place, right?
Yeah, well, yes, it has to be better than the standard.
It has to be bigger than the standard deduction. So that's already going to lop off a lot of people who are basically middle-class homeowners whose mortgage interest is probably not going to throw them over into itemized deduction territory. Maybe. I'm going to put it out there, and everyone's going to write me and go completely nuts. I think the mortgage interest deduction, a deduction that advantages me. I get a great mortgage interest deduction, okay? And I love my 3.25% mortgage. Don't get me wrong. I still can't buy into especially when you live in a place like in New York or DC where there's a vibrant rental market. I just don't get this idea of why we should be treating homeowners so differently than renters.
There's a saying in real estate which is just awesome.
Yeah. Location.
There's another one.
Oh, okay.
Which is, if you're renting, you're still paying a mortgage. It's just your landlord's mortgage.
That's true. I guess that what is interesting is that in many markets still, owning a home is actually cheaper than renting. It's
Right.
absolutely true. So that I get.
Right.
It's just so I know that in every market which is distinct in and of itself like a different animal, there are pockets where it makes sense to rent and there are pockets that make sense to own.
Right.
I just want I want the playing field to be leveled,
So
I guess.
Just to go back to something you said a minute ago, because being a reporter myself, I never let the bone fall to the floor. With rich people. You said, why not just cancel the mortgage interest deduction for rich people?
Well, I know you're going to tell me that you can't deduct more than $1 million of interest.
No.
What?
The answer?
What?
They'll just pay off their house.
So what?
They'll just shrug and say,
Good.
If I don't get the mortgage interest deduction, I'll just pay off the
Good.
place.
That's fine.
Right, so that's what I'm
That's
saying.
just use of money.
It's not going to add anything to the economy.
No, I don't think it's going to add to the economy at all. I'm just suggesting that it's just a benefit that rich people get that essentially for what?
Right.
That's all. Okay,
Right.
Let's go back. I'm ready. You ready to for your close up now?
I
Enough
am
of this
ready.
nonsense of
Come on.
going toe to toe with Jill. What are mistakes that home sellers are making? I mean, it's a great market. So what are the mistakes that home sellers are making right now?
Home sellers are reading in the newspaper and seeing on television and seeing everywhere they look. It's a seller's market. And people are asking just way over price for their house, way over the value. That's a big mistake because in your neighborhood, if you have 6 homes for sale and you're the one who reaches for the sky, guess who's going to be the last one who sells? Mm-hmm. And if you ever have to reduce the price, that's the kiss of death.
Really?
The buyers circle like sharks when they see a price reduction, and they think that's a desperate seller. Mm-hmm. Let's lowball him. I mean, pricing it right is first. Second, as I mentioned earlier, you've got to get your place in shape. You can't just shrug and say, hey, it's a seller's market.
Yeah, good
people
luck.
Are going to line. Yeah, right. It's got to be really good. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that sellers have to remember is that some of them make what I consider to be a pretty huge mistake. Of course, I am with NAR, okay, which is they try to sell it themselves.
Yeah, but I agree with that. And I've always been critical of real estate agents because, of course, my mother is one. So I could always say, but I always felt like, what is it? What value do they bring? But then as a grown up, what I really see is that it is very hard to go through the process alone. And you know what else I noticed? It's like the investment business. You've got to work hard to find someone you want to work with. So you can't just say like, oh, my cousin is a realtor 4 towns over who deals with a totally different segment of the market than I'm looking for, and hire that person and expect that person to perform.
Right.
So I think you have to do some work. But I agree. I think going alone is crazy.
It is crazy. And the studies show, I don't have the latest numbers, but the last time I researched it, maybe last year or the year before, that if you try to sell your house yourself without any professional help, it sells for, on average, 18 to 22% less, including what the realtor's commission would have been.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yep, so you make less money.
Okay, more about the hot housing market when we return with our guest, Steve Gasque. If you've got a financial question, maybe it's a housing question, who knows? Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com or give us a holler, 855-411-JILL. We'll be right back.
855-411-JILL. That's the number to call to have your financial questions answered. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone number here is 855-411-JILL. Our email address, askjill at jillonmoney.com. Have you missed any of our past shows? Wish that you had heard more of a guest interview? Maybe you were dropping the kids off at practice or running some errands. Well, you can just hop onto our YouTube channel. Just search Jill Schlesinger. Mark has put all this stuff up there, which is kind of great. You can always go to the website, jillonmoney.com. And you can also go listen to our new podcast. It's not even new anymore. Go listen to our podcast, Better Off. Apple, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And let us know if you've got a comment. I'd like to hear from you. You still reading the reviews, Mark, or not? How we doing? All right? All right, good. We like to know what you think. And many times we like to know what you think about this program, but most importantly, we want to know what's on your mind for your own financial life. And so many of you have written in asking questions about real estate, whether it's buying your own home or selling your home or wondering how much money you need to put towards a down payment or what kind of mortgage you should get or a refi, any of those questions. And I know it because a house is often your largest asset, not just the place where you live. That's why we make sure we had a super duper expert to join us. Stephen Gasque, he's the host of the radio program Real Estate Today from the National Association of Realtors. Stephen is here to help us make sense of the hot housing market. We did sellers' mistakes, now buyers' mistakes. So obviously running the numbers. But what other mistakes are buyers making? They're getting frustrated, they're leaving the market. But are there some negotiation mistakes people make?
I think that in today's market, what you'll see is a buyer will come in never having bought a house before, and they'll load up the contract with walkaways. If you don't make this just right, I'm going to walk away. If you don't fix that drip in the sink, I'm going to walk away. If you don't replace the roof, I'm out of here. And they put all that in the contract. And every other contract is what in real estate circles they call a clean contract.
Is that like as is or?
Not as is, but what savvy buyers are doing is they're getting the surprises out of the way ahead of the game. So they're having the home inspection done before they write the offer.
Oh, that's interesting. You can do that?
Yep.
Oh, that's great.
And if they decide it's a good house based on that home inspection report, they come in clean as a whistle, no walkaways, no contingencies. They're ready to go.
Do you think that mortgage contingencies are will spook some people off these days or not?
Well, I think that there's two contingencies that deal with the mortgage. One, of course, is financing. And if you get, first of all, if you're a buyer in today's market, The biggest mistake you can make is not getting pre-approved for the mortgage before you walk through the front door. You've got to be pre-approved so that you're totally ready to go with the mortgage before you start looking at houses, because it's moving too fast. If you see the most beautiful place you've ever dreamed of and you think, I can afford it, I want it, and then you start the ponderous mortgage application process, that house will be not only sold, it'll probably be sold for the second time.
Yeah.
By the time you get around to it.
Right.
So you've got to make sure that you're ready for all this. And that's the thing. It's just about speed. In this market, you've got to be decisive. You've got to be ready. And so those first-time buyers that I mentioned who would have all these walkaways, the second time they try because they lost the first house?
Yeah.
The second time, it's a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
The third time, it's really clean. And then they start to win.
Then they get it.
Right.
In finishing up, I just want to understand, when you're looking for a realtor, whatever. In financial planning, there are designations, okay?
Right.
We have, you're a certified financial planner. That means something. There's a certain amount of education that you have to have completed, professional ethics, right? So that's a standard.
Right.
Are there any accreditations in the real estate universe that make one kind of agent stand out from another?
That is a great question, Jill. I'm going to start at the top. The biggest designation is to be a realtor, because you're a member of the National Association of Realtors, and there are agents in America who don't belong. Members of the National Association of Realtors have to abide by what we call the Code of Ethics. It is the highest professional standard of business in the entire industry. If you're not a member of NAR, who cares? You don't have to do that. Mm-hmm. So that's number one. Number two, NAR has, I believe, 20 different designations. Some of them are very big, like ABR, the Accredited Buyer Representative. Those people specialize in working with buyers to help them succeed. Then you have the GRI, the Graduate of the Realtor Institute. These are really intense courses that you have to take, and you have to update all the time. And then it gets down into the more specific things. There's something called ePro, which is, I know how to work with the internet better than the average agent. And one that's going to be appropriate for all of our veterans and active duty service people is the MRP, the Military Relocation Professional. That means that when people get the orders and they've got to close up their house and move, you're the person to help them because they have the experience doing that. So yes, in real estate circles, there are a lot of certifications and accreditations. And, I think that in our audience, it depends on what your personal circumstance is. But say that you have an elderly parent. You might want the senior relocation services. It's a wide range of specialties that kind of depend on where you live.
Yeah.
But it's worthwhile checking it out.
That's interesting.
And what's also interesting is millennials are starting to ask, what are your certifications?
I love that. You've trained them well.
Yeah.
Before you leave, you told us about your 300 square foot best real estate move ever. Now you must fess up. What is your worst real estate decision you've ever made?
The worst real estate decision that I ever made in my life, it hurts me to even think about it. When I was a kid, 22 years old, I had graduated from college the year before, and I was working in commercial real estate in Baltimore. And I lived in this beautiful old apartment building designed by the great architect Stanford White. And it was filled with little, tacky apartments. The interior wasn't anything like the exterior was. And my landlord said to me, I know you because you work real estate, and I was wondering, I want to sell this. Would you be interested in buying it? And I said, sure, dude. How much? And he said, $50,000. And I passed.
All right, it's Jill on Money. We want to thank Stephen Gasque of Real Estate Today for joining us. If you've got more questions for me or Stephen about real estate or anything else, just give us a holler, 855-411-JILL. We'll get you on the air live. You can always send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Sometimes on a Friday, I'll stop by and have a few drinks. After she put her kids to bed.
855-411-JILL. That's the number to call to have your financial questions answered. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, yes, in the dog days of August, yes, We still have financial lives even in the month of August. 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Have you checked out our podcast, Better Off? So awesome. We love it. Kind of like the radio show, but a podcast. Are you afraid of podcasts? That's the thing that's funny. You know, a lot of people, they don't know what to do. So you take your device, you pick up this phone, right? And you say, oh, where is this? What is this podcast thing? And if you have an iPhone, which some of you may have, there's a little purple icon. It says podcasts, and you click on that. Okay? And then when you click on that, you can easily do so. And then, now I'm going to make you relevant. And you're going to then search. And you're going to hit your search button. And you're going to say, Better Off with Jill Schlesinger. Just like that. So easy. If you are using an Android, or you would prefer not to use the Apple Podcast app, there are plenty of other apps. You can use Pocket Cast, Instacast. You can use SoundCloud or Stitcher to do that. But check it out. And then you can find all sorts of other fun financial podcasts. Mark, what's your favorite financial podcast besides Better Off? Oh, you don't? You should. He's loyal to us, and he gets mad when guests of ours go on other people's podcasts, which I think is funny. But whatevs. I like Planet Money, the NPR podcast. It's very good. I think that's good. And for some wonky finance people, like real finance, I like Slate Money with Felix Salmon. I think that's really good. So there, you got 3. You can start yourself off with 3. Better Off, Slate Money, and then Planet Money. 3 good podcasts that you should check out. All right? Go to JillOnMoney.com. You can listen to past shows if you miss any part of this one, or our YouTube channel. Just search Jill Schlesinger. Okay, is that enough business for you, Mark? You're all set? Good. Here's a question. It comes from Harold. I read a column of yours in the Tampa Bay Times in which you suggested consolidating accounts, including investment and different retirement accounts. And this has also been mentioned in several financial magazines. And in fact, some of these magazines suggest asset allocations for different types of investors using mutual funds from several different mutual fund companies. Since at least some of these mutual funds will not be part of the mutual fund company's no transaction fee schedule, it could prove expensive to follow these suggestions. That's what I agree with you. So I think that one of the things that we can do as investors to make our lives easy is to consolidate accounts, but to consolidate accounts at a place that has really low transaction costs or mutual fund fees is my favorite thing to do. So that could mean that you're going to choose a place like Fidelity or Vanguard or T. Rowe Price, or you're going to use a discount broker like a Charles Schwab or a TD Ameritrade, or you're going to use a online investment platform like Betterment, which is the sponsor of my podcast, or Wealthfront or Rebalance IRA, something where it is clear how much money you are paying for your investments. So anyway, let me go back to Harold. So yeah, you're right, Harold. We got to pay attention to that. After I retired, he says, I rolled over my employer's 401k account to an IRA rollover at one of the major mutual fund companies. Since then, my wife and I are in our 80s. We've consolidated our retirement accounts with the same major mutual fund company. The company has quite a few mutual funds and ETF choices. Some of the funds that I own and would like to add more to are not included in their no transaction fee schedule. So it would be costly to add to those funds. So it appears that my choices are limited to not adding to these holdings in the retirement account, buying the funds directly from the mutual fund company, which is just another set of statements, trying to find similar funds in the mutual fund company where we have our investments, or paying the fee. So what are some suggestions to handle this dilemma? Harold, I'll tell you what, I don't think it's as big a dilemma. I don't know what the choices are, but if you're talking about reallocating and looking at your total fund costs, my guess is that you probably can find cheaper alternatives. And if you own them already, that's great. But why are you making yourself crazy? I just can't imagine that this is going to be the real big issue in your life. I really think you'd be better off sticking to a low-cost index fund. Use the funds while you have them. That's great. But truly, I don't think it's going to make a big difference. We make such a big deal out of these ideas around, oh, I've got to pick the best fund. And it usually does not matter. It really doesn't. I just think, I think you're going to be fine. But the actual funds you choose, is probably more important that you stick to the lowest cost alternatives rather than saying, oh, I think this is the best performing fund out there. I don't know. We spend a lot of time talking about, oh, how is it when this fund's better than this fund? You might be wasting your time, really. All right. You're listening to it's like the dirty secret of investing. You're listening to Jill on Money. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com or give us a call, 855-411-JILL. When we come back, more of your questions. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, give us a holler. Love to hear from you. 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We got a question from Mrs. W, who says that she needs to refinance her mortgage. She's in her 60s. She works 3 jobs. She's got a house that's worth $340,000. She's got a first mortgage and a second mortgage already. And she needs to pay off some debt and have some emergency reserve. And essentially, she's got a loan right now that has, let's say, due in 2032. So no interest, no payment, a home improvement loan for part of it. It was all part of this other thing. What should she do? Okay, so she's got a $340,000 house. She needs to refi 210 or so. I just ran the numbers at 4% as a mortgage, and that's about $1,000 a month payment, which I'm not sure if it's probably a little bit more than she's paying, but maybe not. She probably is not going to be happy to hear when I say, it's 30 years versus the 20 years that she has, but the 20-year brings her up to $1,300 a month. So here's what I think you should do. I think you should go shop around for a loan. She asked about a particular company. I would just shop with couple different places, maybe your bank as well. You're looking for a $210,000 30-year fixed rate mortgage. You cannot take on any more debt for this. And hopefully this will get you pretty close to your current payment. Yes, I know it stinks. You're going to have a payment for a long time. It's just the way it's going to have to be. And, frankly, you're paying for your first mortgage right now, the second mortgage, and you're also paying debt, this $23,000 in debt. So maybe if you want to keep the payment down a little bit more instead of getting the money out for emergency reserve, you just get a line of credit that can help you out in case of an emergency. Okay, that's it. That's the show. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Steve Gasque for all that housing-related info. It's been terrific. If you've got a question, just send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.